Most people think wealth is obvious. They think it arrives with a certain engine sound, a certain logo, a certain watch face catching the light across the table. But the market has a cruel sense of humor. It lets people rent the appearance of success long before they build the structure to support it. That is why the guy stepping out of a polished German sedan may be one missed paycheck away from panic. That is why someone can walk through a lobby carrying a luxury bag and still feel their stomach tighten every time a banking app loads. The noise says rich. The math says fragile. And that gap is where fake wealth lives. It starts with the costume, the cheapest version of the most expensive brand, the badge without the balance sheet, the base model luxury car parked like a trophy, while a better-built mainstream car beside it offers more comfort, more reliability, and far less financial bleed. But fake rich psychology does not buy utility. It buys recognition. The goal is not to enjoy the machine. The goal is to be seen with the emblem. Reality versus appearance shows up immediately here. The market's noise says, if it looks premium, it must signal success. Wealth reality says, if the monthly cost keeps draining cash flow, the logo is not proof of success. It is proof of a priority problem. And the damage is not just at the dealership. It trails behind the purchase like smoke, premium fuel, inflated insurance, branded repairs, specialty parts, maintenance bills that keep arriving long after the social impression has faded. That is how fake wealth steals from the future. It converts investment capital into image maintenance. It takes money that could have been compounding silently in brokerage accounts, retirement funds, or a business reserve, and feeds it into symbols engineered to depreciate. Then comes the next layer of the costume, the designer item that costs more than the owner's liquidity can safely handle. A watch on a wrist that hides credit card debt. A handbag that quietly outweighs the emergency fund. Shoes purchased on installment plans. Jewelry bought not from overflow but from insecurity. The item is framed as a reward, but in many cases it is not a reward at all. It is a performance expense. A prop. A stage light. A desperate attempt to borrow the emotional feeling of achievement before actual achievement has happened. And this is where the cold truth cuts deepest. If one purchase can destabilize you, that purchase is not luxury. It is danger in premium packaging. Fake rich people often misunderstand what luxury is supposed to mean. Real luxury is not strain. Real luxury is ease. It is the freedom to buy something excellent without needing that purchase to repair your identity. It is the ability to enjoy quality without turning the receipt into a financial scar. The same illusion appears in leasing culture. A new luxury car rolls off the lot. The cabin smells pristine. The mirrors reflect the perfect version of someone's life, and for a while the payment feels manageable. But underneath that polished surface is a repeating loop. Pay for the steepest. Depreciation, hand the keys back, start again, build no ownership, collect no asset, repeat the cycle until years disappear. Reality versus appearance again. The outside world sees a fresh vehicle every few years and assumes upward mobility. Wealth reality sees a lifetime of payments with nothing durable at the end. That is the fake rich blueprint in its purest form. Maximize visible status, minimize invisible stability. Even the counterfeit version follows the same script. Knockoff goods are not really about design or craftsmanship. They are about trying to buy the social effect of a name without paying the true cost, and that tells you everything. Someone who values quality can buy quality at their level. Someone chasing perception will often choose a weaker imitation if the logo can still do the talking. It is not about owning something beautiful. It is about being mistaken for someone else. That is the central fraud of fake wealth. It asks objects to do the work character and capital should have done. Once you see the costume, listen for the soundtrack. Fake wealth is rarely quiet. It narrates itself. It keeps bringing the conversation back to income, investments, commissions, deal flow, luxury travel, big opportunities, and whatever version of success can be spoken into the room before It is actually secured in real life. This is one of the clearest signals because people who are truly grounded financially tend not to need constant verbal reinforcement. They do not have to turn a conversation about dinner, sports, or vacations into a subtle earnings presentation. They do not need every topic to orbit around what they spent, what they made, or what they are about to close. But the fake rich often do because words are cheaper than proof. Future tense becomes their favorite currency. A huge deal is coming. This investment is about to explode. The next quarter is going to be massive. This new system changes everything. The language is always leaning forward because the present cannot carry the image alone. Potential becomes a substitute for results. Revenue gets spoken, like profit. Gross numbers are polished and displayed while net outcomes remain hidden. And the difference matters because wealth is not the size of the number you mention at dinner. Wealth is what survives after expenses, taxes, mistakes, time, and risk. Reality versus appearance strikes again. The market's noise says big numbers mean big success. Wealth reality says only retained capital changes your life. Then you meet the one-upper, the person who cannot let another person's good news remain untouched. Mention a promotion, and they had a bigger one. Mention a new home, and theirs appreciated faster. Mention a nice trip, and theirs was longer, more exclusive, more expensive, more first class, more everything. This behavior feels social on the surface, but financially it reveals something darker. A mind that experiences every interaction as a status ranking. They do not hear your success as information. They hear it as a threat. So they answer with escalation. Not because they are secure, but because they are terrified of shrinking in the eyes of others. Truly wealthy people do not need to win every room. They can let another person have a moment. They can congratulate without correcting, admire without competing, listen without turning the conversation into a performance review of their own life. Fake rich people struggle with that because their self-worth is overexposed to external comparison. The same pattern shows up in unsolicited financial advice. Notice how often the loudest money critics are not trying to understand your goals, your timeline, or your risk tolerance. They are trying to recruit you into validating their decisions. If you are content with a modest apartment, a reliable used car, a disciplined savings rate, and steady investing, your calm strategy quietly accuses their flashy one. Your restraint exposes their excess. Your patience makes their urgency look theatrical. So they push. They tell you that you should have upgraded, that you should be more aggressive, that your conservative approach is too boring, that you need to make the kinds of moves they made. But often, what sounds like guidance is really self-defense. People who are truly competent with money know that different structures work for different lives. They understand that finance is not fashion. The right answer depends on cash flow, obligations, values, margin of safety, and long-term objectives. Fake rich people often need universal agreement because private doubt is already growing behind the scenes. They are not just selling you a strategy. They are trying to silence the voice in their own head that wonders whether they built the whole thing backward. Then there is the digital stage, where fake wealth becomes industrialized. Social media has turned appearance into a measurable asset class. Attention can be counted, engagement can be faked, and the image of prosperity can now circulate faster than prosperity itself. That changes behavior. A quiet transfer into an investment account does not thrill strangers. A boring weekend at home protecting your budget does not go viral. Building an emergency fund does not photograph as well as champagne in a rooftop lounge, so the incentive system bends people toward spectacle. They learn that spending looks more glamorous than saving, that luxury seems more exciting than discipline, and that curated moments can simulate a lifestyle even when the bills behind the scenes tell a much uglier story. This is where fake rich becomes almost self-reinforcing. Once someone starts performing wealth publicly, they may feel trapped into sustaining it privately. Every post raises the maintenance cost of the identity. Another trip, another outfit, another dinner, another angle, another flex, another accidental shot of keys, labels, hotel lobbies, shopping bags, airport lounges, market wins and polished surfaces. Reality versus appearance becomes brutal here. The market's noise says visibility is value. Wealth reality says a lifestyle that depends on constant public reinforcement is often too expensive to be real. And sometimes the illusion becomes layered. The follower counts are inflated, the comments are hollow. The influence is bought to support the appearance of income, and the appearance of income is used to support the image of success. Fabrication stacked on fabrication until the entire thing feels sturdy from the outside and empty from the inside. That same hunger for acceleration fuels the obsession with faster than normal wealth paths. Not necessarily obvious scams, but seductive systems with just enough plausibility to keep hope alive, day trading fantasies, options bravado, crypto moonshots, dropshipping promises, forex dashboards glowing late at night, multi-level pitches disguised as entrepreneurship. Every shiny machine marketed as the shortcut that patient people are supposedly too blind to see. A tiny minority will always make these paths work, but fake rich culture does not love them because they are statistically reliable. It loves them because they preserve the identity of imminent breakthrough. They allow someone with modest results to speak like a future titan. They replace slow compounding with high drama storytelling. They let a person say, "You'll see," over and over again. But real wealth rarely arrives with cinematic timing. It is often repetitive, unsexy, quiet. It looks like contributions, risk management, delayed gratification, skill building, and years of not needing applause. Fake rich people often cannot emotionally tolerate that pace. It feels too invisible, too ordinary, too far removed from the aesthetic they are trying to project. So they chase the next thing, then the next, then the next, carrying a trail of abandoned convictions behind them like old receipts. And finally, the loudest giveaway of all, overdoing it. Too many logos, too much jewelry, too much fragrance, too much brand language packed into one body, as if wealth was something that had to be shouted from every visible inch of fabric and metal. But real money, especially mature money, often becomes less theatrical over time. When someone knows, they are secure. The need to signal shrinks. They do not need every item to introduce them. They can own nice things without being owned by the need to display them. They can choose quality without turning themselves into a billboard. Fake wealth, by contrast, fears subtlety. It worries that if it stops broadcasting, it will disappear. That is why real wealth whispers and fake wealth screams. One is built on substance, the other on surveillance by strangers. One asks, "Does this increase my freedom?" The other asks, "Will this impress people?" One compounds, the other consumes. And that is the choice sitting underneath all of this. Not whether you can look rich for a season, but whether you can build a life that no longer needs the costume. Because the end game of actual wealth is not applause. It is optionality. It is sleeping without panic. It is handling emergencies without collapse. It is making decisions without the cold sweat of image maintenance. It is having capital working for you in places nobody sees. The fake rich spend years feeding a machine that never says enough. Real wealth builds quietly until one day the room changes and you no longer need anyone in it to confirm who you are.